Hey guys, Buckeye MTB here. I'm going to talk to you today about the 5 things I wish I knew before I started commuting on a bicycle. Now, who am I? What do I know about commuting on a bicycle? So I'll say a few years back, ran into some financial difficulties, ended up having to sell my motorcycle, my vehicle, and I had just moved to a new city and I had to get to work. So I had at the time, a pretty nice road bike, a Specialized Delay, and I decided that I was going to commute on that. So over about the course of about 8 months, commuted 200 to 300 miles a month in all types of weather conditions, Nebraska through the winter, spring, through it all, heat of the summer. So I'm going to share with you the 5 tips that I wish I knew before I started commuting on a bicycle. First one, type of bike matters. As I mentioned, I had a Specialized Delay road bike, which was a pretty fast road bike, which is good on nice smooth surfaces, covering lots of distance fast. But I quickly found commuting, there's tons of different variety to the surfaces that you're on. Could be cobblestone roads, could be busted up pavement, could be short sections of gravel, could be road construction areas, a little bit of everything. And on a road bike like that with really skinny road bike tires and no suspension, you feel every single bump. Going over railroad tracks, that's another one, but I still kind of cringe. It kind of just shakes your bones as you're hitting those bumps. There's no cushion on the tires and there's no suspension. Types of things that if you're on a gravel bike or on a mountain bike you wouldn't even think about or even feel. On a road bike you feel every bit of that. So I will say with that you do go faster, so that's a trade-off, and with every bike that you're going to select there's going to be some type of trade-off. You got to decide what makes the most sense for you and what type of trade-off you want to do. But if you're commuting and considering commuting on a bicycle, the bike you already have is probably the best choice, and you can make the most of it from there. So with that, you are going to want to be able to carry gear, and that's point number 2. You are going to need to carry a lot of gear when you're commuting. So examples are, you need shower stuff. If you're going to show up to work, you're going to be sweaty. What you ride to work in is, depending on what type of work you do, you're not going to want to stay in those clothes and work in those. I was working in an office setting at the time, so I wore my cycle clothes in the morning. Once I got to work, I had shower shoes, towels, all that sort of stuff, so luckily I had a gym and a shower at work, so once I got to work, I showered and changed. And then you got to bring all that laundry back home. Also bring a lunch with me for the day, so I packed a lunch. And then after work, I was taking some college classes, so I would bring something to eat with me after work as well. And in addition to that, I needed some books and other things for my college classes in the evening. So it turns into quite a bit of gear, and it gets kind of heavy. Depending on where you're at, you know, rain may be a concern, winter may be a concern, so winter coats, winter boots, rain gear, all that sort of stuff, you're going to have to carry that somehow on your bicycle. So I started carrying it in a backpack. That's really fatiguing. It would really wear me out, like having a really heavy backpack, especially when you're doing an hour plus commuting ride. For shorter rides it might be okay, but longer rides I really appreciated being able to get that weight off of my body and on the bicycle. I had a small little aluminum rack on the back of the bike. I ended up cracking that rack from all the weight that I was carrying on there. So I had to do some modifications to get that where I could still use it, use some hose clamps, zip ties, all kinds of stuff to be able to carry what I needed to on that back bicycle rack. That's where something like some side panniers or something like that would be real handy to carry tons of gear. Point number 3. Plan your route and no public transportation. So this was a fun part for me, something I really enjoyed doing. Getting on Google Maps, getting on Map My Run, taking a look at what bike trails exist in the city, those maps, kind of overlaying it all together, finding the most efficient route to get to work, whether that's the shortest distance, the least amount of hills, the safest, the most fun route. Sometimes I would just change it up just to get some variety on where I was riding to work. You also realize that some routes that are great great in the morning, like 5 or 6 in the morning. In the afternoon, they may not be safe at all. They may not even be rideable. If you get lots of traffic, a lot of people stuck in traffic commuting on the way home, they get annoyed by cyclists. I swear I've had people try to hit me with their mirrors or get close to it at least. So keep that in mind. If there's any incidents like that, just give those people plenty of room. And overall, I just tried to avoid those areas. And to really get an idea or feel of what the route's going to look like, you should try it out before you need to do it different times a day. Do like a fun weekend ride and go check out those routes to see what it's like to actually ride those rather than just look at it on Google Maps. Or if you have a car, go run some of the road portions in a car just so you can see what it looks like. Because sometimes the hills and terrain don't always match. What's road construction may not always match to what you see online. So it's always good to check that ahead of time. And if you are testing it out on the day you're going to work, just make sure you give yourself plenty of time. One other thing I had, I worked downtown Omaha and I did college classes at University of Nebraska, Omaha in the western part of the city. From downtown to there were tons of hills. It was a really busy section of roads to take heading west in Omaha in the afternoon. So one thing I found is I just took the city bus during that time. They actually have a rack on the front of the bus where you can throw your bicycle there, and riding the bus is free for UNO students. You may have something similar in the city you're in. So I just took that cheat code there and rode the bus, so I got to relax a little bit, avoid the dangerous roads, and not have to fight all those hills heading west through Omaha over to the UNO campus. From there, once I got off, I did my college classes, and I had a nice, smooth, easy ride on the way home down the bike path. So I was able to bypass that most difficult and dangerous section of the route just by hopping on the public transportation. So you may not have that available to you where you live, but if that is, it's just something to take a look at and look into. Point number 4. The weather matters. So I never really paid a whole lot of attention to the weather before commuting on a bicycle, and you may not pay attention to the weather either in what you do, but I will say at a minimum, even if you're going to ride no matter what, it's going to change the amount of gear that you need to bring with you. So whether that's snow, rain, fire, whatever it could be, it's just something you need to plan for and make sure you're prepared when you're out there on the route. I've got one good story with that. I rode to work one morning. It was kind of a cool morning, but nothing serious at all, just a pretty normal bike ride. We ended up getting about 6 inches of snow that afternoon. So on my way home, riding my road bike with those skinny road tires and about 6 inches of snow, I was sliding all over, and it eventually got to a point where it was unrideable. I couldn't even ride down the bike path. So I was dragging my bike through the snow. I was about an hour late from when I normally get home, and I still was several miles from home, dragging my bike through the snow because it was not rideable in those weather conditions. Luckily, a good Samaritan took pity on me and saw me, and ended up giving me a ride home. I could throw my bike in the bed of his truck, so that kind of saved the day there. But that was all just related to that, not checking the weather and not having a good plan to deal with when weather comes through. Point number 5, last point I'll highlight here, maintenance. You need to maintain your bicycle like it's your everyday driver, because it is your everyday driver. Luckily, bicycles are easy to maintain, real simple things you can do. There's videos for all of it online if you'd like to learn how. You don't really need any specialized tools for most of your basic bike maintenance, making sure your cables aren't frayed, making sure your chain is oiled, making sure your tires are in good condition, making sure you have spare tubes. I got really good at changing flats on the side of the road. All the things you pick up from the road could be steel belts from car tires that were flat, broken auto glass, pieces of metal, nails, staples, you name it. There's that out there, and your tires will pick it up. I was getting a lot of flats. I ended up changing my tires over to the Continental Gator skins, and those resisted punctures and flats a lot better, but still occasionally, depending on what you run over, you could end up with flat tires. So having a means to change that quickly on the side of the road, and knowing how to do that is absolutely essential if you're going to be commuting on your bicycle. Another thing to keep in mind when you're commuting on a bike, not only do you need to maintain it, but you need to keep it clean. Your bike is going to get filthy out there on the road. So you've got all the road dirt and dust and construction zones and everything you may be riding through. Your bike's going to get dirty. In my case, I was riding through the winter time, so you have all the salt and the slush that gets on your bike that really just gets your bike filthy. Going to take a lot of effort to keep it clean, but I would just say continually wipe it down, because when salt gets into stuff, it corrodes, it rusts, it can get your bike looking in pretty bad shape in a quick amount of time. So if you are going to commute, keep that in mind. Your bike's going to be dirty, and it's going to take some attention to keep it looking good. And that's it. That's the 5 things I wish I knew for mountain biking. If you like this content, hit that like and subscribe. And what else did I miss? If I missed anything, let me know in the comments below.